everybody out there. Welcome to the eye test. It's been a long time. We haven't been around for a few weeks, but we're back to you now. Unfortunately, I'm not here with Sean today because he's in the air on his way to Alaska. But this is right after a UFC event. So of course we got our guy Tyrone. So how you doing, brother? How are you?
Doing great, man. Couldn't be better.
So look, man, you got to fill some shoes today. You're my only co-host today, so got to step it up. More jokes, more laughs, all that.
Yeah.
But anyway, but this should make for a very good episode because we're just going to be able to move right through, and maybe cover some more topics within the UFC today. And like I said, a UFC main event just happened just past weekend, which was UFC 261. So I was just explaining to Tyrone earlier that UFC 261 was kind of a little bit of an event. It was the first UFC that we had full crowd again. And what's funny about that is it's actually 10 UFCs away from the very first fight of Fight Island. And four of the fighters that were in the first fight of Fight Island were in the first fight with a full crowd again. And that is Usman and Masvidal and Andrade and Thug Rose. So that's just a little interesting thing that just so happened to work out. I wonder if they did that on purpose or not, but it's kind of dope. I just wanted to share that with y'all. But UFC 261 was an amazing card. How did you feel about it? I mean, at least I think it was an amazing card. Let me not speak for you, Tyrone. How did you feel about it, sir?
No, it was a great card, man. It was the perfect card to have come back to all the fans. The lead up to it, I was stoked about it. Like I was watching the embeddeds. You can just see the fighters. They were like relieved to see fans. They were feeding off the energy. And if you look at it, like that fight, well, the main card, none of those fights went to decisions. They were all finishes. I mean, we had an injury in there, but they were all finishes. So I feel like the fighters fed off of it. It was something good for the fans, something good for us at home. It was a good card. That's the way I think UFC cards should be, like that.
Yeah, every fight in this particular UFC ended by the second round. No fight went past the second round, which is actually, I don't think that's ever been heard of before. If you was able to bet on that, you made a lot of money. So, right. But do you think, speaking of the crowds and everybody feeding off the energy, do you think the crowd had a lot to do with why every card was pretty much on the attack? Usually that first round, the fighters tend to fill each other out and not really be on the attack as much. But in these fights, do you think it's just the fighters in particular, or were they feeding off the energy and they were like, nah, let's get after it, and they were on the attack?
Well, I feel like it had to do with just the stage that was set in general. Like you get there, you got the walkout, you got the crowd, they're out there trying to touch you. Some of the fighters were engaging with the fans, and then you got the Bruce Buffer, talk. He's putting on his performance now. Where before, it was in the Performance Institute or it was the Apex. It really wasn't that, exciting. They didn't get your blood boiling. They probably didn't have any nerves. You know what I mean? But when you get out there in front of 15,000 fans, and you don't know how many, like millions of people on pay-per-view, you got the lights going out for you. You got Bruce Buffer saying your name like it's epic. It does something to you, And I feel like that was the spark. That's the magic behind the live events, is that, the build-up. So it got everybody in gear. As soon as they said fight, those dudes went after it.
Right, and they absolutely did go after it. And so, with that being said, let's just start off with the very first fight of the evening, which was Anthony Smith versus Jimmy Crute. Anthony Smith is sporting a record of 35-16. Jimmy Crute 12-2 now. At the time, he was 12-1. This was the light heavyweight fight. Anthony Smith essentially was like, "Hey, Jimmy, if you can pass this guy, then now we're going to start considering you for something." But Anthony Smith changed his day with this fight. Essentially, he shut his leg off. He hit the switch on his leg and turned it off. For those that didn't see the fight, Anthony Smith delivered a lower leg kick just above the left knee of Jimmy Crute, and in the lower leg kick behind the left knee, Jimmy Crute then had drop leg. What I found interesting from that though was, even though his leg shut off, like he obviously adrenaline induced to be in the fight, but like off that one leg, he delivered an excellent tackle for a takedown. So I thought that was dope. But in the end, he couldn't. His leg never woke up, or at least his ankle did. So how do you feel about that? And
even before that, I think that was a mercy blow. Like that was the MMA gods like saying, "Hey man, sit down," because Anthony Smith, like I bet on that fight, and I bet Jimmy Crute to win just because he's a powerhouse. You know, it's hard. He's he's a bull. You know, and Anthony Smith was jabbing him to death. Like those jabs, beautiful jabs, like right on point, sitting him back on his butt. You know, everything like that. So. Well, it was only a matter of time before that fight was going to end either way. I know Jimmy Crute was upset at the stoppage because it was a medical stoppage because he couldn't walk. But, I mean, you look at the scorecard for the first round, I don't even know that probably would have been a 7 on his behalf. So.
Well, yeah, it was interesting, though, because in that first round, like that surprise takedown from Jimmy Crute, and Anthony Smith like kind of being surprised by it, and like Jimmy Crute was able to score.
Yeah, he scored a first.
Score at the end. So like the first round is going to look somewhat obscure because like we all saw how he went down, and Anthony went to capitalize, and he launched out of there like from his butt, like tackle. Like that was very like, so I thought that was really dope. But you were right. Like that stand up, it was getting bad for Jimmy. Like
yeah, it was getting real bad. And then it was only a matter of time that he was going to start doing head kicks, because once he started attacking that leg, even if he did come out for the second round as hurt as he was going to nurse the hell out of that leg. If the doctors let him, if he could have got past the doctor's observation, he was going to nurse the hell out of that leg, which means head kicks were coming. So, if you got to go out, you were losing a fight, it's best to go out like this. Maybe not in his heart, maybe not for the fans, but for general health reasons. You know what I mean? You nurse that leg back up, and you can come back in the next pay-per-view, you know, opposed to having a 6-month concussion suspension, you know what I mean, because you took a beating.
Right.
Yeah, man, that was surprising to Anthony Smith. You know, Anthony Smith is hit or miss, man. Like, after that John Jones fight, man, he ain't never been the same. Like, he ain't never been the same. Like, sometimes he's on, sometimes he's off. Sometimes he's on, sometimes he's off. But I thought he was going to be off this fight. I did. I didn't think Anthony Smith was going to win just because Anthony Smith was fighting old legends, and you know, whenever you had any stiff competition, he didn't do too well. But he surprised the hell out of me. Hopefully, he stays that way. I don't know on his training details. I usually do. But his stand-up got a lot better. So I don't know if he switched gyms or what. But I have to look into that. His stand-up got a lot better, especially with his jab. It was educated. It wasn't forced. Everything was where it needed to be.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the jab, and one thing that I mentioned to you in our text messages during the fight was that we are now seeing evolution in the current generation of UFC fighters. And we see this evolution every so often. Like we saw the evolution in UFC where jiu-jitsu became more prevalent, and then the style ranges of UFC kind of shrunk down to jiu-jitsu, taekwondo, um, and Muay Thai. Like
Right.
but now the evolution has grown for the stand-up game where people were adapting boxing for the haymakers or for the knockout punches. Now boxing as a martial art is being showcased in more UFC fights. We
Right.
are see, we are seeing it more so now in the way that, like I speak about it all the time, in the way that these fighters move around the ring and we're seeing it we're seeing like properly thrown jabs, properly thrown right straights, and we're seeing more controlled punches and more controlled stand up from these fighters, and it's kind of dope to see now that with boxing. What do you think caused that? Like for boxing to become more accepted within the UFC and more fighters to take it on?
You're right. It is an evolution, and it's like I really don't know when it took place. The only time I could possibly say that it really started to show was when Conor McGregor hit the scene. He was just knocking people out with his boxing. Like at first, everyone was just calling it the left hand. He just lucky left hand. And then when he started to get into actual longer matches, you started to see that his boxing was starting to become ridiculously good. And you saw Anderson Silva. He was like messing around with it. I think that's what caused him to get knocked out. He was kind of like playing around, trying to evolve in his boxing skill. Head movement and his punching and stuff like that. But I think he played too much with it. He got caught. But yeah, I don't know where it came from. I don't know when it hit the scene. I don't know. Maybe it's been these crossovers. Maybe these MMA fighters were like, well, if I learn how to box, I can go over there and make me $80 million, come back and reset, or I can retire. So I don't really know where it came from, bro. Like I don't, but it's refreshing to see. And jabs in 4-ounce gloves are way more painful than in some 10-ounce gloves. You can just see people's faces getting ripped apart. You're like, yo, this should be illegal, bro. Like you need to get some bigger gloves if you're gonna let this happen. Like this dude's face is starting to get flattered by the jab.
Yeah, like it's like the jab is definitely, like you could see it in its intent of
Yeah.
like it's stop what you're doing right now. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you're moving towards me, stop. Like that's like you're seeing the intent of what the jab is supposed to do. Like
right.
The fighters is moving. That jab hit, they stop. Like, oh,
everybody stops. Like Jimmy Crute looked like he wanted to go home. Like he did. He got jabbed a couple of times, and he was like, "Oh, it ain't gonna be. It's gonna be that type of fight." And you could see, like he stopped. He took like a couple deep breaths and was just like, "Well, we here now, so what else are we gonna do?" Like,
right?
Yeah. If he looked like if he could have had the option, like he was gonna leave. Like he was ready to cry. He was ready to cry, bro. He was.
Yeah. So it's interesting, but and what's really interesting about it is that through this evolution right now, because it's evolving, we're seeing the adaptation of the offensive side of boxing. And we're seeing the jab connect very often. We're seeing these punches connect so often because these fighters aren't used to defending these type of punches. And so where the next evolution that's going to come, at least that is going to be the defensive side of how to defend when somebody like Usman is just jabbing you to death, or Anthony Smith, or any number of fighters that are today now using boxing. So so the adaptation to that is going to be interesting as well when fighters start having to defend that, because when, I guess for me, it's just going to be, it's going to be interesting to see you try to defend the jab, and this guy goes from a left jab to a right leg kick, like you know what I mean, like that. Now you hit now, like the chess game is going to be a real problem when they start putting these combinations together. Like, so that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, and that's the intent. That's the intent. That's the recipe. That's why you get a lot of these fighters as dominant, because they work the jab for the first half of the round. They get you, tentative to it. They get you a little bit scared of it, and then they go to the leg kick. That's exactly how he was able to set up that leg kick. He was tentative of the jab. It was smashing his face in, and then when he feinted it, he went and covered up, and then he got hit in the leg.
Yeah.
Then he's like, what am I supposed to do now? Like.
Right. But in general, that was excellent. Last thing about that I want to bring up about this fight is, have you seen that happen before, or is that something that's common at all, to where, like, essentially a leg kick shuts the nerve off?
Yeah, it happened to O'Malley, Chito Vera. It happened to him. Okay. He got kicked in the behind the leg. His leg went off too. He ended up getting. They didn't stop the fight for him. He was fighting on one leg, and he ended up getting ground and pounded out. That's why he won't accept that as a loss. He's like, because my leg didn't go out, I was winning, but
it was a loss regardless, because the doctor would have stopped it. It was still a loss. Like it's not like your leg just shut off while you were walking down the street. Like, no, this person.
He tried to make it into like my ankle wraps were too tight, but if you look at the fight, he was hit exactly in the same spot as Jimmy Crute. And they need to get, one part about fighting is when you go to different things like other older martial arts, they learn the anatomy of the body.
Yes.
For that reason. So another good thing, like you said, boxing's evolving, is these guys, you get a fighter who learns the anatomy of the body and knows where these veins go, where the blood supply is, and where the nerves are. Mm-hmm. They can pinpoint where he wants to hit, shut legs off and shut arms off. But we done, that's some kung fu stuff right there, It's a wrap.
now you in blood sport.
Yeah, now you're in blood sport, yeah.
Now you in a kumite shit.
Yeah, the dim mock punch, yeah.
So yeah, that's gonna be different. But the next fight, oddly enough, I guess you could call this the tale of the ending of Anderson Silva fight, because Chris Weidman, who was the beginning of the end for Anderson Silva, and Uriah Hall, who was the closing of the book for Anderson Silva, they fought each other in the middleweight fight, and this fight was ended by Uriah Hall through a leg check, which is, ironically enough, exactly how Chris Weidman defeated Anderson Silva the second time. So karma comes back around, I guess, or I don't know, ironic coincidence or what you want to call it. Either way, it's a story to tell. Yeah. And in this, I think I've seen the most classic face I have ever seen from Joe Rogan in my life. Did you see the meme where they just show his face when he reacts, like when he sees the kick?
Yeah.
Seeing how his face lit up.
Yeah, I'm glad Joe Rogan's back. We needed him over on the side.
Yeah, like seeing his face light up, and he was like, ah! Like it was like that. It was essentially like he watched somebody's finger get chopped off right in front of him. And when it happened, I was just like, ooh. But when you watch the replay and he lands on the stump of the break, that was just like, oh God. Like that was too much. but yeah, Chris. For those that didn't see the fight, Chris Weidman, he delivers a right leg kick. Uriah Hall checks the leg kick, and checking the leg kick, Chris Weidman just he hit that part. He hit that part of the shin, the strongest part of the shin bone, and his shin just snapped.
Yeah.
So it's nothing more you can say to that. That was an instant fight killer. Fight was over right there at that moment.
Right.
Did you have Uriah Hall winning that fight sans injury?
No, I didn't. I didn't. I had Chris Weidman wrestling him because he really has nothing on the ground. It's for Chris anyway.
Right.
I had Chris Weidman. Even though his chin's a little suspect, I had him being able to maybe close the distance on Uriah against the fence, taking him down, pounding him out. I actually had Uriah Hall at first, but then I switched it. I should have went with my first instinct. But that happening was never in my mind. That was never, Uriah Hall wins by a leg kick because of leg break. I didn't see that coming.
Well, for me, it was always bet on black, even though I'm not.
That's racist. That's racist. That's racist. Everybody deserves a chance.
Or is just being pro, like my people. So I had to go with my guy.
Didn't you say something like Brazilians ain't black people or something like that? Didn't you?
No, I didn't say they're not. I said they don't think that. I said that they don't consider themselves to be, which is a fairly true statement. Not speaking for all of them, but there is a great sect of people that would tell you, no, I'm Brazilian, even though. So, I mean, anyway. But my point back to this is that even though I'm not a fan of Uriah Hall, I was going to go with Uriah Hall in this particular fight, and he just so happened to win. But off of that sentiment went off of the leg kick. These were two fights that were ended by lower leg kicks. And there is a growing sentiment out there within the UFC communities. I'm seeing it in certain subreddits, and I'm seeing it in Facebook groups every so often. Fans, I personally consider them to be casuals for having this take, but fans of the UFC, they would like to see, I guess, an end to the leg kicks in the UFC, because actually, you know what? So I'm just going to stop right there and say, how do you feel about that?
They're casuals, bro. Like they are. That's that's nonsense to even sit here and say. It's mixed martial arts, bro. That's what happens, Like now, the reason why we haven't seen that a lot of it in the past is because now leg kicks are starting to become more prevalent. Before people would throw leg kicks, they didn't feel they would really do anything. Right. And then if you go against a guy who can like catch that leg, you get a takedown, you can lose a fight. But people are starting, like I say, they're starting to learn that there's a nerve that runs behind the knee. They call them calf kicks. Before they weren't called calf kicks, they were just leg kicks.
Right.
To the upper thigh, or at the hip area. But then it started to evolve around like little kicks. Like, so if any of you guys ever play video games, you play UFC, they do updates on this game. Every time there's a UFC, they do updates. I want to say after the Sean O'Malley, after the Conor McGregor fight, when you would play that game, you would throw a low kick. It would be the traditional Muay Thai low kick. They would lean into it. They put all their body weight into it. After Conor McGregor lost due to calf kicks, they updated it. And now those kicks are different. So it's like they're learning as they're going. So now we're going to see a lot more calf kicks. And that's where Chris Weidman tried to go. He tried to go to the same area where that nerve was, and Uriah Hall just turned that knee out. That's a dangerous place to kick, because if they do check it, you're hitting the hardest part of the shin. You go above the knee, you go lower by the ankle, mid-calf, that's a little different. You can still inflict damage there. You just won't hit that nerve. So, yeah, crazy to even want to outlaw leg kicks. Then you might as well go watch boxing, bro. Like,
Right.
like boxing, like mixed. I guess it'd be boxing, like wrestling boxing. Like, what would it be without leg kicks? What would the UFC be without leg kicks?
I don't know, but
It would be hilarious.
I will say this: when you see it being used, I can see how some people will say, "Well, this isn't an exciting fight," or that, or like it doesn't give. I guess it doesn't lend itself to being the most entertaining thing to watch, which is the same as watching a fighter like Floyd Mayweather like jab someone to death all fight. That doesn't lend itself to being the most entertaining thing to watch. And you're like, well, he's not really hurting them, he's just scoring points. Well, I would say the same way I said to people when they were talking about Floyd, there's a reason why they don't keep coming forward, because that hurts.
Yeah, that shit. I'm gonna test it. That shit hurts. I hate leg kicks. I hate throwing leg kicks because they hurt. They hurt you too. Right. So they don't just hurt the person you kicking; they hurt you too. So yeah, those shits hurt, man. Like, for real.
Yeah, like it hurts. Like, you don't keep running into, like, people aren't chasing down Floyd Mayweather because his jab actually hurts. You may say it's a love tap, but get in the ring with them and let them jab you in the face and see if it's a love tap. And yeah. I'll say the same thing. Get in the octagon and let somebody leg kick you. Let's see if it's a love tap. Like, no, This isn't just a scoring tool. This is something that they are doing to actually stop you and to slow you down. I guess for me, one of the first people that actually ever used this, or one of the first people that I saw use it in this form, just so happens to be this is just right now, is John Jones against Gustafsson, the second go round. Because in the current form in which fighters are now using it, that's the furthest back I can think of at the moment where it was used as the main fighting tool. Can you think of anyone further back than that used the leg kick as like their main way of attacking?
Yeah, if you go all the way back to Crow Cop, like way back to like the double digit UFCs, like Crow Cop used to use it too. And it's not necessarily something that always inflicts damage. Right. It can be a nagging soft jab that over, like Chinese water torture over time. But all in all, it's a tool. It's a tool for me to draw your attention away from my intentions, which is the head kick. So Crow Cop would always start out with the low kick, start putting, reddening that area up, softening it up. And then when you start reaching for it, boom, it's up to the head. We look at John Jones in DC. That's exactly how he got the second knockout. He was doing low kicks to the body. He started reaching for it. Boom, kick to the head. As soon as you start reaching down. I don't want to jump into the main event and tell you what happened, but just to say in a little amount of words, that's exactly what happened in the main event. Same thing. It would have never went down like that if one person wasn't expecting a low kick and it went high. So,
are you talking about the Thug Rose and
no, not main event? Yeah, the co-main event. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, so they're a tool, and you can't take away those tools from the fighters because, take away low kicks, like everything. Then I know everything's coming to the top. Now my defense is good. I'm going to always expect you to throw things up top. You're never going to get a hit on me. It ain't going to work. It ain't going to work. These guys need to be quiet in these subreddits, these Facebooks. Like, accidents happen. It doesn't matter. Arm bars produce broken arms. You know what I mean? Right. Pile drivers or people dropping people on their head that produce broken necks. You get broken ribs, broken toes, broken fingers,
Yeah.
broken
Like,
hands,
let's not forget what they're in there for. Like,
right, broken noses, orbitals being taken out. Like Chris Weidman had his whole. If you look at his face, it doesn't even look the same as it did 10 years ago because he had to have his orbital bone taken out.
right.
You know, so I mean, these guys, what they do, they know the risk of what they do, and they sign up for it. So can't outlaw something that they know was going to happen.
Right. And I think that's actually the most interesting part of it is the fact that fans aren't even saying like let's outlaw it for safety. They're like, no, this isn't entertaining. Like, get rid of it for entertainment purposes.
Right.
But it's funny that you see.
Give him a morphine shot and make him fight on the ground now. Come on.
Like, it's funny that you mentioned like the injury aspect of it and like these things happen and stuff. Well, I just have a question because me not being a person with a Muay Thai background, but me knowing people with a traditional Muay Thai background, like they are strengthening their shins like as children. And like, you know what I mean? Like my one friend, like he told me stories of long ago. Like when he was a kid, he used to take a broomstick wrapped in a towel and like knead it across his shin, like to create the callus on his shin so that he can deliver leg kicks. And when you when you're watching these Muay Thai fighters, like these traditional Muay Thai fighters, where they're knocking down whole bamboo trees with leg kicks, I just think it makes me wonder rather that these fighters are using martial arts skills that truly require time to develop and to use properly, but like, you know, because this is a mixed bag and we've seen people today actually just like you learn mixed martial arts. You don't learn a martial art and then learn a different martial art and then learn a different martial art. No, you're learning mixed martial arts. So I'm wondering if stuff like with stuff like the leg kicks and stuff like that, will you see these type of injuries because you're not doing it the traditional way, I guess.
The more people learn how to defend the kicks, time them, you probably see a lot more injuries. And it's because those guys that practice Muay Thai in Thailand, in Cambodia, all that stuff, a lot of these kids, they start out young because that's how they feed their family. Right. And I can tell you over the time that I did Muay Thai, training 3 times a day, trauma to the body, because Muay Thai produces extreme trauma to the body, is going to cause your bones to become dense. It's going to cause your muscle tissue to become dense. So it's not about, I mean, the whole kneading thing, I've heard that too. What that does is that kills nerves as well. It causes calluses and it kills the nerves. But to get that bone density, you have to cause trauma to the leg, which is constantly kicking things. You remember the old Shaolin monks? They start out hitting sand, then they move the gravel, then they move the rocks, and next thing you know, they're breaking bricks. And that's because they built up that trauma, that bone trauma, that density. And if you look at their knuckles are huge, bro. And that's why they're able to do that.
Right.
Well, like you said, picking up MMA, we go into MMA, I want to be a fighter. You're really good at it. You know, they teach you a couple techniques. You train 2 hours a day every week, every day, take your Sundays off. You ain't going to build up that trauma. Some of these kids, bro, in Thailand, they would go and do like 5 fights a night. I remember the guy who was teaching me, he had over like 300 fights. 300 fights. Like, that's crazy. 300 fights, bro. like, yeah. Come on, bro. Like, people in the United States get to 50 fights and quit. Like, I'm done. We're good.
All right.
So what was John Jones been fighting for over 10 years, 11 years, 12 years? How many fights he got? 20 something?
Yeah.
Just to give an aspect, it may not sound like, to the people listening, they may be like 300 fights ain't that much if you fight a lot. John Jones has been fighting for 11 years. He's been champion for however long. 23 fights, 24 fights is what he's able to amass. 10 years, so stuff like that. That's crazy. And that's what causes that trauma, that bone density. That's why they can go out and kick down banana trees and break bats and do all that other stuff. Right. You can take any champion in the UFC and have him kick a bat and you'd probably be like, nah, I'm good.
Right. Because like when you watch, like just the idea of throwing, like, because when you think about it, just the idea of you throwing that leg kick, like when I was training with my friend and like throwing that leg kick and he checked it, you are literally throwing, like you're throwing into something that's going to hurt you. Like this isn't soft. Like, so when you're so in the MMA gym, you're practicing your leg kick, you're throwing it into a pad, like cool, great. But like they're throwing it and it's like a hard ride that you're just, and you're supposed to do that over and over again. Like, so when it comes to the UFC, it doesn't quite translate the martial art properly, right. I guess.
Right. And you can't really throw the kick properly because you have to be aware of the counter.
Yeah.
So a lot of they tell you in Muay Thai, when you throw that kick, you got to follow through.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just like when they break boards in karate, you got to follow through. If you stop short, you break your hand. Like, so you got to commit, but they can't commit those kicks all the time because it might be a takedown. It might be somebody might punch them. They might get knocked out. So initially they're doing these techniques, but they're not following through with them because they can't. So, I mean, if you look at the fight with Chris Weidman, he didn't throw that kick, right? He didn't at all. he half-assed it. He was just trying to do a tap and it didn't work out.
Yeah. So shout out to Corey, by the way. But yeah, didn't quite work out for Chris Weidman at all. And so now his leg is broken. And I would just suggest that, I guess, when doing these, I guess getting into that world, you do have to remember that these are techniques that, like, this is a martial art. Like, this is practiced and learned over years. Like, you can't be like, oh, learn this technique and then 5 years from now I'm cool. Like, nah,
right.
Like, some of these dudes is doing this for 30 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's a different game. Like, I would suggest that when you're learning these techniques, actually invest in the martial art.
So, yeah. Don't go in there and spar and then get a leg kick and be like, you see that? Because most likely you sparring with shin pads on. That's another thing they do when they spar. They spar with shin pads on. That's protecting the shin, right. So you don't hurt yourself. A lot of beginners spar like that. Even, professionals, if you watch a camp, you'll see them in there with shin guards on, sparring. They don't do that in Thailand.
So I would suggest, like, when you're doing this stuff, actually invest into the martial art itself and not just think, oh, I could just run around doing these techniques. But anyway, moving right along to the next fight of the evening was Valentina Shevchenko and Jessica Andrade. In this fight, I mean, it's not a whole lot to say. This was the title fight for the flyweight division. Andrade was the number one contender in this fight. Her last fight, I believe she was coming off of a loss to Thug Rose in 251. Was that her last fight?
Yeah, her last fight was Rose Namajunas. The last fight, yeah.
So, yeah, so coming off a loss against Rose in the flyweight division, right?
Strawweight. She was in the strawweight division. She fought Rose for a contention to the belt.
Okay.
Tried to make it back. She lost to Rose, so she moved. I want to say up.
Yeah, she moved up to flyweight, and now she got a title contention there, but maybe she should have just focused on
Actually, I messed up, bro. I messed up. Her fight was off of Caitlin Charkougian. She had to have a fight in the flyweight division. She went against another girl, and she ended up stopping her with body shots.
Okay.
I think she broke her rib. My bad. She didn't come off the fight with the Rose. That was a fight before she went to flyweight. Had one fight, dominated that fight, and that got her a title contention. Okay. She beat like the number two ranked fighter in flyweight, so they moved her up.
Right. Okay. Now that's more understandable. But all the same, that didn't matter because Valentina Shevchenko showed that you could be 1, 2, 3. It don't matter. You're going to lose because Shevchenko is the champ. So this was pure domination by Shevchenko, throughout, and it was. I guess it was only right that it ended in the most dominating grapple that could possibly happen to you, the crucifix. So
I didn't have Andrade winning that at all.
No,
not even close. Just because I know how Shevchenko rolls, I didn't have her doing that at all.
Well, I went and educated myself on Shevchenko after you brought her up to me.
She's a beast, man. Her and Rose are like really good friends. So when people, that's why I'm such a Rose fan. When people say, "Oh, Rose is she gonna lose a fight," I was like, they used to train together like hard, and she used to give Valentina pretty much a run for her money. So, and that's why I'm such a fan. But with Valentina Shevchenko, what I thought was funny was leading up to the fight with Andrade, she was cool. Shevchenko's nice, she's cool, whatever. But Dana White and everybody was pissing her off because they was like, you got to respect her power. You got to respect Andrade's start. She's good on the ground. She's good at wrestling. She may overpower you. And I think all that led up into what the fight turned out to be. Like, she was like, oh, she going to out-wrestle me? Oh, she's strong. She's good on the ground? Oh, I got to respect her power? Bet. Okay.
let me just stretch her out and punch her in the face.
Yeah. So she dominated her, body locks, slamming her on the ground, letting her get up, slamming her again, softening her up with punches. And this was weird because Shevchenko is a stand-up fighter. She's a stand-up fighter. She likes to stand up. So I thought it was weird that she didn't do that this time.
They brought it up several times. She ragdolled Andrade all over the place. It was a very, very clear strength difference between the two fighters. Valentina did whatever she wanted and threw her around that ring. And in the fight, man, to quote Joe Rogan, "Oh no, look at this. This is terrible."
It's terrible. Yeah, a lot of people don't know how to get out of crucifix, which, I was like, man, they really need to teach how to get out of that, though, because once you're in that, that's a wrap. Everybody who gets into it it's a wrap. It's over. It has to be a way. It's a way to get out of everything. Because if that was like the end all be all, why don't people do it more often?
Well, from what I see, from what I've seen and what I experienced, not only is it once you're in it, it's a wrap, but it's really difficult to get somebody in that position. It's difficult to end up that way. So the transition into being to where your leg is on one side of that person's arm and all that, and them not maneuver themselves out of that, for it to end up happening that way, it's a little difficult. So I think it's just one of those high degree difficulty moves that look, if you know how to do it and you get them, that's it. But don't expect to just pull it off at will like an armbar. Like an armbar is okay, I can pull this off fairly easily, right, with regularity. But a crucifix, you ain't seeing that often.
I'm gonna have to look it up on YouTube, to be honest with you, because I haven't had a lot of crucifixes thrown at me to have to worry about. But I'm very curious to like, that can't be it. That can't be a wrap. Because why don't you just tap out right there? Why you taking elbows to the forehead? Like, just if you can't get out,
just take your elbows and punches to the face.
Yeah, just like I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. You know what I mean? No reason to like blacken my eye, you know?
The moment that you have me like this,
yeah, it's
like,
rap. If there's no escape for that, then let's just call it, man. Like whenever you get into that position, just call it. The ref should just be like, it's over.
I'm done. Like that is the most embarrassing way to get
it. Is. And then you got the referee's like, you got to do something. You better do something. Like, I'm trying. What are you talking about? Tell her to stop grabbing my hands. Like, as soon as she get it free, she just trap it again.
Shit, it's brutal.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look that up. I'm very interested in knowing how to get out of the crucifix now. And then I'm gonna email it to Andrade for next time. No disrespect. I just feel that, you know what I mean, everybody should know this information if you was in it. If you've ever been in a crucifix, you need the information. Somebody needs to bless you with it. Like, this is how you do it. So next time.
You know what's funny though? I think it was Chris Weidman. Chris Weidman had put somebody in a crucifix because they were showing his highlights, and he did. And he defeated someone in a crucifix. I can't remember who it was, but I was right before that Shevchenko fight. I was like, damn, the crucifix is a brutal ass. I was like, that's a brutal ass move. And then it just so happened the very next fight, the crucifix gets pulled out. And there's really not much left to say about that fight except for it was a brutal move. Next fight is Rose Namajunas versus Weili Zhang. Yes, Weili Zhang. Weili Zhang was the former champion of the strawweight division, and now Thug Rose is once again the champion of the strawweight division because she did lose her belt in the past, and now she has it back. So this fight happened, like Tyrone mentioned earlier. This fight was a KO due to a high kick to the neck. I know Tyrone is a major Rose fan, so this is not surprising to him. For me, although I was not rooting for Rose in this fight, I will just let you guys know that I was mostly not rooting for Rose because I just felt like being contrarian in this fight, and I felt as though Weili Zhang I felt as though this was a fairly even fight, just based off the two fighters, and I felt like being contrarian. So that's why I went Weili Zhang in this fight. How do you feel about the fight, man?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I was rooting for Rose to win. I was nervous. I always get nervous when one of my fighters I'm rooting for is about to fight. I think I started feeding into the media. You know what I mean? Like the fans. I was going around looking at people's reactions to the fight.
Mm-hmm.
It was a fight I wanted to happen, and everyone was, oh, Zhang is big, Zhang is strong, Zhang is a brick, Zhang is, a bull, Zhang takes punishment. And even though they say you shouldn't do this, I do MMA math. I say, if this person beat this person, when this person did this, then this person should do that. They say you shouldn't do that. It has yet to fail me. I look at Joanna Weili Zhang. It was a split decision fight. Joanna almost beat Weili. Rose went out, dominated Joanna. So with that said, that information, Rose should win. And that's what I based my opinion based off of. But, also hearing Mark in the last fight with Andrade, you know, Rose really can't take power shots, you know what I mean? And, you know, you see what Andrade did to her nose, you know, and she was, you know, she lost concentration. I kind of was thinking of that too. But the way it went down was beautiful. Like, it was beautiful. It was, I took a lap. I took a victory lap. I was excited. I jumped up and took a victory lap. People were looking at me like I was crazy, screaming along the way, victory lap. That was beautiful. And like I said, it said in our text messages, you know, Trevor Whitman has done an amazing job with his camp, with his fighters. She's been with Trevor Whitman for a while now. And you can just see the information overload she was doing to Weili Zhang. She was moving in and out, left and right, back and forth, feints, lifting the leg, putting it down, you know, throwing long jabs, throwing sharp jabs, you know, head movement. And that information overload initially led to Weili Zhang reading her movements wrong and getting caught with a high kick.
Yeah, I do feel as though the KO is earned.
Yeah.
I feel as though the KO is absolutely earned, but I do also feel as though it's still one of those. I feel as though they are still evenly matched pair. I feel as though the rematch, like, it could still go either way. Like, I don't necessarily feel as though that was a domination. Like, it was just like you read the kick wrong, and you paid for it. Like, that's like that's what happens. Like, sometimes you could be evenly matched with somebody in chess, but you can also, but in being evenly matched with them, you can lose within 10 moves sometimes.
But then you wouldn't be evenly matched because the mental aspect of the game is why you lost.
Yeah. Hey, but that just means I
In the
lost
game of
this
chess,
time.
everybody's meant. In the game of chess,
But, no,
everybody's
but that means
evenly
I
matched.
lost this time. When we play again, I may win. Like, it just happens. It just so happened that it happened this way this time. Like,
Nah,
so.
I think they maybe like physical attribute wise, Zhang is stronger. But the mental aspect, like she read that kick wrong because Rose wanted her to read it wrong.
Right. No, I get it. No, I thought, like I said, I'm not saying nothing about that knockout was an accident. I'm just saying this just happened to be one of those circumstances. Um, and you're right. Like, that was another reason why I was moving towards Zhang, was because of what I said before, or what I
Yeah.
noticed before in Rose's fight against Andrade, when Andrade broke her nose and all that stuff. Like, Rose lost focus and was clearly rattled by that. And if you see Weili Zhang's fight, she delivered blows. So
Yeah.
that's why I was like, well, we'll see how this goes. But congratulations to Rose on reclaiming your title.
Yeah. First woman in UFC history to regain a title after they lost it. So that's some history made there.
That's really dope. Really,
Yeah.
really dope. But now to the main event. In the main event, we had Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal. And in this fight, Jorge Masvidal was saying that Kamaru hits, like, prior to this fight, he was saying that he hits soft, and I mean, pretty sure you saw the memes around there now that he said, like, oh, it's a shame God did this to this man, that he gave him the softest hands in the world. Well, I'm pretty sure you're regretting that, seeing how Kamaru Usman has knocked the ring straight out of Jorge Masvidal. Like, legitimately, bro, when I watched that hit, it looked like a scene out of Tekken. Like, when you see, when you see the power hit and the flash happens, like,
Yeah.
from the power hit, like that right straight hit, and you saw all the water from Jorge's body leave in real time. Like, in real time, it was like, and like, I was like, what the fuck was that? Like, he knocked all this, like, with one punch, knocked all the sweat off this dude. This dude was,
Yeah.
he was soaking wet before he got hit, and dry as he went to the ground. Like, That shit was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now this, like I said, I went way late before, but here's your opportunity because I know you've been hating on my man Usman. So
What you want me to say, man? Look, before the fight, I told you I was like, I want Masvidal to win just because I don't like Usman's attitude. Now I will address that in this time. I didn't like his attitude last time, but I told you I would not bet against a certain coach. It doesn't matter if he has the most hated guy. I don't care if Izzy is over there. If Trevor Whitman's training the guy I hate the most, I cannot bet against that guy. And I think he moved over to Trevor Whitman when he had to fight Gilbert Burns. They used to train someplace else. He used to train with Michael Chandler. He used to train with Gilbert Burns. And then, so when Gilbert Burns said he was going to fight for the title, Kamaru Usman left. And he went to another camp. You know, you ain't going to train in the same camp. Mm-hmm. He went to see Trevor Whitman. And that's when we started seeing, and I was rooting for Gilbert Burns. I was like, I don't know how much Trevor Whitman can do in a short amount of time against this, guy, Gilbert Burns. And we saw those jabs, the fundamentals, you know what I mean? He worked on the fundamentals. That's the jabs, and that's the jabs that we saw eat up Gilbert Burns. So then I was like, well, it's going to be tough. So then we fighting Masvidal after watching Rose, seeing this guy. I didn't know how Justin Gaethje is. Now he's been over there too full time. I told you in the text, it's probably going to be Kamaru Usman because he's with Trevor Whitman. And I knew everything I needed to know in the first 45 seconds. Masvidal is a good boxer. He didn't see those jabs coming. He didn't see him coming. And when he couldn't see him coming, that's a wrap. Like, he was trying to laugh him off, and that's exactly why he got hit, because he was laughing him off.
Yeah. But like right before he got hit, he got finished at.
Yeah, he was making faces. He's making faces. Now, the amazing part about this, when I will give Usman his props, when you slow down, when you watch that in fast time, it just looks like a straight, like, right hand, just crazy, like he leaned his arms weight into it.
Yeah, no.
But you slow it down.
He pulls his arm down. And
yeah, you slow it down. It was a feint to a guard pull to a cross and a duck. This man did this in 0.2 seconds. He feinted, guard pull, struck him, and then ducked the hook that was coming.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. That is crazy that he did 4 things in 0.2 seconds. So yeah, after that, I was like, I don't really see, like, what's next. I don't know what's next for my man. You know what I mean? I don't know what's next for Kamaru Usman. I don't know what's in the division is kind of weak, weak as it is. And the only contender was George Masvidal, but Masvidal played too much. So I don't know. Maybe Masvidal need to go see Trevor Whitman and they can do it again. But that's the only thing I see.
Or maybe Kamaru moves up to middleweight.
Nah, he ain't gonna do it because that's where Izzy is.
But maybe that's what he does. Maybe he just says, Izzy, I gotta take it from you, bro.
Nah, they both from Nigeria. That's not happening. They already said it ain't happening. It's not happening. They brothers. That's the African trio right now. The African kings, the 3 kings. They're gonna support each other and they ain't gonna fight each other. Which is shit. I like to see that, man. I do.
Right.
That's something that I wish, I guess, American blacks had it within them. Like, you got John Jones, the champion, and you got Rashad Evans. Like, I'm gonna take it. You know what I mean? Like, yo, I thought we was homies. Like, look, I don't care, man. This is a job. You got Kamaru Usman, and then you got Gilbert Burns. Cool, and Gilbert Burns, like, I'm gonna take it. Right. They ain't gonna do that. You know what I mean? They ain't like, nah. We can all shine in our own respective weight classes. So everyone was saying maybe he moves up. Not as long as Izzy is champion, he would not move up. If Izzy loses that belt and can't get it back, he will move up. But Izzy's not gonna go down.
Well, maybe we'll see Conor McGregor versus Usman at some point, because
True. It has been some talking. You're right. And I think that's a smart move, because what is next for him? There's nothing next appealing. This man's touted about being a GOAT. I think he still has some things, some checkpoints to cross before he's considered that. But Conor McGregor fighting anybody is crazy money. I'll watch it, even though I think that Conor McGregor will lose, because dude has too much wrestling. As far as boxing go, I think Conor McGregor has better boxing. But he ain't gonna get jabbed in the face like that. Like he has this Floyd Mayweather neck move where he just moves out of the way just so he can counter. But the wrestling, I mean, Kamaru has that too, so he's just gonna wrestle your ass to death. This is gonna happen.
Yeah, well, one thing I will say is that, like, I want to push back a little bit. Usman's stand up isn't necessarily new. He's been doing it now, as far as like the crispness of his jab and like how well, like, yes, that's attributed to his new camp, but he's been pretty much like trying to prove that, like, no, I'm not just a wrestler for a long time.
Yeah,
Even in his fight against Colby Covington, like, you know what I mean, he came in and tried to stand up for quite a while. So
he did, but if you noticed that, it was sloppy. He stood right in front of Kobe.
no, yeah,
Him and Kobe were just going back and forth. With this Trevor Whitman camp, they putting Kobe in front of. He's gonna eat Kobe alive, bro.
yeah,
He's gonna eat Kobe alive.
yeah. Like I was just like I said, it's definitely like the crispness of what he's doing now is definitely attributed to the new camp, but him like just standing up in general, it has been something that he's been aiming towards for a very long time.
Yeah, and to address his cringiness, if anybody heard the other show, he was so cringy. I can't say that he was a little bit more bearable to listen to this time. You know, he was a little bit more setting his own, which he should be. He wasn't like the whiny champion, like, I got the belt, I'm the new king, you will respect me. He wasn't like that. He was just relaxed, cool, calm, and like he knew what was going to happen. He had confidence in his speaking. I'm sorry. So I was like, all right, as long as you continue to be like this, like a man, and not a little crybaby, like I can maybe get behind you next fight. But we gotta see. I'll give you one more fight.
He in this fight, he definitely put everything he had behind that punch, man. Like,
Yeah.
it was. I laughed because I was like, he just punched him like you punched that punching machine at Dave and Buster's.
Yeah, when you step in it.
Like, that's how he punched him. Like
he stepped into that. It was a weird looking punch. He stepped into it, but it worked. I mean, it worked.
I mean,
I would have hated for him to miss
I've ever
that,
seen a right straight connect so cleanly. Like, I mean, like, all of it, all 5 knuckles directly across the chin, like snapped his neck. Like, it was just absolutely ridiculous.
It was crazy. It was like you said, a taking move. He hit him. It was like a double combo. He hit him, and then when he knocked him out, he did like a shoulder push, like some, like, you know what I mean, like some crazy shoulder push. Because you see dudes get his head get whiplash twice. It whiplash this way, then whiplash that way. And he fell to the ground. It's like, damn. Then he started beating his face in.
Exactly. I was like,
it looked like Jorge, like he faked it. Like he just like, I'm just gonna act like I passed out, so stop. Because he was trying to fight it off. Like he was trying to fight it off, but he was just like, maybe if I play dead. Like he was getting attacked by a bear. Because I was like, yo, you mean to tell me that punch didn't knock you out, but these little bitty hammer fists did? You faking it, bro. You getting mauled by a bear and you just wanted to stop. Play dead.
Well, it's the same. Well, it's the same thing that happened to Wele. That head kick knocked her out, but like, the body went on autopilot for a second. And
the head kick knocked her out. She was done, and then the head. I watched it in slow motion. When she hit the ground, the back of her head hit the canvas, and that woke her up.
Yeah,
but she wasn't responding to the hits. Like I don't think she felt them. You know what I mean? Like she was getting pounded out, but she wasn't responding.
Yeah, like no, the body just went on autopilot for a second and moved, and then it was like, oh no, I'm done. Like
yeah, and everybody. I mean, she's sitting, she's complaining. She complained. It was an early stoppage, but if you watch it from a different angle, she fell into the fence, bro. No, like when the referee let her go, she fell into the fence.
Nothing about that was an early stoppage.
No,
at all. Like
it's just what she remembers. It's just that's what she remembers. She remembers.
She remembers the moment she woke up. Like
all she remembers is like she threw a leg kick. I dodged it. That's what she remembered. I dodged a low. What you stopping to fight for? I dodged a low kick. Like no, son. Like 12 minutes passed. Like what are you talking about?
Like that was hours ago.
Yeah, what are you talking about? That leg kick never came, bro. But yeah, Usman, I'm gonna give him his props in this one. I know I talk mad shit about him. He's still on my shit list. But the way he handled himself, the way he up to the fight, even with I thought he was gonna be such a crybaby because when he first walked out, everybody booed him. They booed him the entire time. You're in Florida, you got Jorge Masvidal. That's pretty much his home state. Everybody booed him at the weigh-ins. Everybody booed him at the press conferences. They booed him when he walked out. They booed him at the name announcement. So I was like, he gonna be such a crybaby. But he didn't. He shook it off. He didn't care about it. He was classy in victory. He didn't like sit there and like poke fun at Jorge, even though they got bad blood. They talked it out. I think I do like that. I like that after he fights his opponent, he shake hands, good fight.
What is Jorge? But what else was Jorge supposed to do? You just got knocked the fuck out. Like,
yeah, but it wasn't. But Usman didn't have to talk to him. He could have been like, I don't want to talk to you. No. He could have did that. But he didn't.
Why would I be like that? I just knocked you the fuck out. Why?
Exactly, but that's the way that dude beats sometimes. That's the way he beats him. That's why I didn't like him. Like, that's why it be like that sometimes. Like his one-liners are corny. You know what I mean?
You just don't like his one-liners. His one-liners are mad cringy.
Okay, so for instance, I was watching the Embeddeds, right? So he in the kitchen getting a haircut. He was like, "Yeah, what do you want? You want to fade?" He was like, "Nah, go ahead and cut it all off." And he looked at the camera. Since some of y'all want to talk, I'm like, "Bro, what? What these people say about you don't matter? You mean to tell me you getting your head shaved because some fan tweeted or something like that? Is that what you telling me? Like, come on, bro." Like, it just seems like he's just really moved by what people think, and that I don't like, and which causes him to act out of emotion and say little weird stuff. It's kind of like listening to rap back in the old days. Remember, every rapper had an enemy, and you never knew who it was.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? 3-6 Mafia was always talking about, we gonna beat this person up, we gonna do that. Next time y'all say something about us, and you're like, who are you talking about? Lil Jon, they always fighting somebody. They always had an enemy. It's like, so when he talks, it's like, who are you talking about? Like, nobody even said nothing about you. Everybody keeps saying you're the GOAT, and then you come in here and you say these things. But he didn't do that this time, which I was relieved for. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And then I watched the press conference, the post-fight, and he wasn't being corny, you know what I mean? He was just in the moment. He was grateful for the moment. He was grateful for what he was doing. And I could dig that, as long as he stays that way, I could dig it. Like, so if Kobe was champion, that guy would be annoying. He was interim champion and he was annoying. You know what I mean? Like, that's the type of shit I'm talking about. So didn't like Usman. If I don't like somebody, it's going to be because of their personality, not who they are, where they come from. I used to be a huge fan of Izzy. Then he got the belt and he just started being cringy as shit too. You know what I mean? I like Francis Ngannou because he's not cringy. He just says what he has to say, does what he has to do, leave it up to that.
Yeah. Well, move. It's funny because UFC, what was happening inside the ring wasn't the only entertainment of the night.
Right.
Because it also became about what was happening about the outside of the ring. Jake Paul, of celebrity boxing fame, had a run-in with Daniel Cormier, and Daniel Cormier said he would ball this kid up, and he wants to fight Jake Paul in a limited skill fight.
Did he say limited skill?
Yeah, he did limited skill.
I thought he said he wanted to fight him in an MMA fight, which is clown. That's clown. Yeah. Clown too.
Yeah, but like he said, limited skill fight. Like, so he doesn't want to go full MMA on him, but he wants but he does want to fight him using his wrestling or whatever like that.
No.
But all the same, this is just stupid. It's a dumb thing. I don't know why Daniel Cormier would fall into this trap? Why would he debase himself to get involved with a guy like that at all? Like,
Because if he knocks you out, bro, trap, bro. It's a trap.
like,
He might be hustling folks, bro. It's like I don't know how to play pool, and he a pool shark. This boy probably had mad boxing hitting. He got like boxing tapes hidden under his bed from back when he was little and everything.
who knows? But it's
Like,
absolutely
yeah,
ridiculous, man. Like, I think like this is all unnecessary stuff, honestly.
yeah. I mean, they're winning like boxing right now. Like if he's the ambassador for boxing, they winning right now. Mainly because I think you're a sucker. If you're an MMA fighter and a boxer calls you out and you say, I'll fight you in an MMA match, you sound scared to me. Boxing's part of your weaponry. Like it should be. I mean, all fights start standing up and you start usually with your hands. If you claim you're a superior fighter and this guy is boxing, like boxing. If you don't think he can fight, if you think he's a YouTube boxer, I'm not saying go box somebody like Canelo or something like that, but if you say this guy has no skill and these are lucky punches and he's calling you out and you're an MMA fighter, like and you accept this invite or you pay attention to that, then you should box him and show us. You know what I mean? Don't say I want to fight you in an MMA fight. Don't say that. That right there, like Tyrone Woodley, did you see that footage where he was in the back of the dressing room when he was watching the raps on Jake Paul? Did you see that? Did you see that? Okay, so what happened here is you had Jadeon Love, who was a boxer back there, and they were pretty much messing with Tyrone Woodley, calling him out, all this other stuff. And then they were like, you don't know nothing about these, holding up boxing gloves, saying he don't know how to box. Tyrone Woodley kind of blew it off, was the bigger man, was just watching the raps or whatever. He was like, I'm a 5-time champion, you know what I mean? I've done this, I've done that, I've done this, And then he gets on the internet and he's all like, yeah, I want to fight that dude, Javion Love, in an MMA match. And I was like, bro, like that really looks bad when you do that. It looks bad. Like if you're gonna fight, the dude offered to fight you in a boxing match. Accept it. You lose, you get like what, 5 million? How much you pay a million? Like Ben Askren made more money in that fight than he did his whole MMA career with the UFC, he said. So like this whole, I want to fight Jake Paul, but I want to do it in MMA. Like, no, he didn't never say he was a wrestler. He never said that he was a jiu-jitsu artist. He never said that he was a Muay Thai fighter. He said he was a boxer. That's all the skills he has. You got all these other skills. You got boxing, you got wrestling, you got jiu-jitsu, you got Muay Thai, you got karate. Take one of those skills, which is boxing, and box him if that's what you want to do. If you want to pay attention to this guy and give him a little bit of clout, boxing him. Don't do that MMA crap because you look retarded.
Right. Well, it's fun. It's funny and perfect that you brought up that Ben Askren says that he made more money doing this fight than he has in his entire UFC career. And in our last podcast together in UFC 260, we spoke on the lack of revenue being passed around in the UFC. And it's getting and is things are coming to a head. So we will wrap this episode up by just reiterating Dana White and the UFC brass are pieces of shit.
Yeah.
The UFC fighters are grossly underpaid. And now I particularly aim at Dana White because although the UFC brass are complicit in this, Dana White's partners, although they are complicit in the UFC fighters being grossly underpaid, they, at the very least, they aren't putting out false media and false narratives to discredit these fighters. Meanwhile, Dana White is. Dana White, just with John Jones alone, is saying he asked for 50 million, this, that, and the third. And even first of all, I want to say this: if John Jones asked for 50 million, give it to him. The way that he's been grossly underpaid at this point, this should be like, this is part of this is back pay. I owe, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just so if he asks for 50 million, give it to him. He deserves it. Like, that's one. Two, two being he never asked for 50 million. John Jones in the tweet after the press conference in which Dana White said he's asking for 50 million. That's impossible. This, that, and the third, and all that. John said, when did I ask for 50 million? Pull up the conversation in which I've ever asked you for that. Or are you saying one of my people said that? And he's saying, or is it, and he left it at dot dot dot. So essentially saying, or are you just lying and pulling shit out your ass? Now, this is Dana White has been caught in lies plenty of times before in the UFC past, so that's nothing new there. But it's getting to be a real issue with these fighters. And before I get hand it over to Tyrone, I just want to bring up Jake Paul. He had some words for Dana White as well, because Dana White had some words for Jake Paul recently about him making a fight with Jake Paul would be ridiculous. So this is Jake Paul's response to Dana. Dana, you claimed you would bet 1 million on me losing. Set up Askren to train with Freddie Roach. Gave him full access to UFC PI, and he still got his ass handed to him. Seems like you are a real douche, not Ariel. In in my third fight, I made more. It says more twice here, but I guess it said I made more in total paid than any fighter in UFC history. Maybe it's time to pay your fighters their fair share. No wonder they all want to get into boxing, which is a very real thing. Dana, Dana, you say you make the fights fans wants to see. So hurry up and make Jones and Ngannou. Pay them their fair share. Tim, oh, sorry, phone went to sleep. 10 million purse for each guy plus pay per view. Why are UFC fighters so underpaid versus boxers? Why did I make it in my third fight more than all but two fighters, Khabib and Connor? UFC fighters have in history. I know why. He said so. Essentially, saying why have I made more than every other fighter except for Khabib and Connor ever has in just his third fight? Um, Now I don't know the official numbers on Jake Paul's fight, but he is saying that what he made total, saying I guess from revenue and all that other stuff, and plus his purse, he made more than any other fighter has ever had in the UFC. A little ridiculous, man. Um, because here's some highlight points for you guys. We have seen it. Fighters are trying to get to fight boxers now. We talked about it in our last episode, um, with the former heavyweight champion wanting to fight Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury, because there's more money in going to boxing than it is in UFC, even though it's the far less popular sport today. So it's I don't know, man. What do you think, Tyrone? Like, what should actually happen? Like,
um, so we all laugh, bro. Like we laugh when these fighters go to Bellator, but looking at these Bellator fighters, it is very possible for you to be an MMA fighter and get money and get paid. These guys are making millions of dollars over there. Some of them are saying, that's why they're happy over there.
right.
Cyborg's making her fair share now. Corey Anderson's making good money now, and they're actually looking for their UFC peers. Like, hey, if y'all want to come over here, bro, you can make way more money. It's like every fighter that the UFC kicks out goes over there and they're happy, So it is a step down why they're so happy. And it all comes from Dana, man. I don't know. I would like to see the books, bro. That man has to be making hundreds of millions of dollars. You know what I mean? And he can give these fighters something, but I don't know why he doesn't, man. I have to see the books. You got these endorsement deals. You're getting, like, I think they're on ABC now. You got the ESPN contract going. You know what I mean? You got a Monster contract. Monster is really how these fighters get paid. That's how they get paid. And that's ridiculous. So that's how these guys actually make a living.
Because yes, you're right.
That's why you see a lot with the Monster cans, and that's why you heard, Dominic Cruz calling out that guy who runs with Monster. But they pay these guys like a monthly, like maybe $7,000, $5,000, and that's how they pay their mortgage. That's how they pay car notes. That's how they buy groceries. That's how they do all that other stuff. The purse most of these guys win, it has to go to medical bills. They got to go to trainers. They got to go to, whatever else they may, expenditures they may have. So Jake Paul is absolutely right. Like, there is enough money out there for everybody. It's just that Dana White's taking it all. Or I don't know, maybe the way the company set up, maybe the head guys, the owners, they want 80% of profits and they only give 20%, kick down. I don't know how the company set up, but it's ridiculous that UFC is one of the most popular sport organizations on the planet. They're known everywhere, worldwide, every continent. Yet, and they have multiple fighters from all over the world. Yet they can't pay their fighters. Like, what was it? I think we said the numbers before. John Jones been fighting for 11 years, 12 years, and he made a little bit, maybe like 10 million in that time frame.
Well, to
That's
put
ridiculous.
things in a slight perspective, also from the sponsorship standpoint, once upon a and I speak about this every time we get to this point of the conversation. Once upon a time, fighters used to look like used to look like NASCAR stock cars. They, you know what I mean? Their shorts had every endorsement that they possibly could have on them because that's how they were making money, because they weren't making shit in the UFC. So you would have Monster Farm. I mean, you would have MP on their shorts, the big Monster brand. You would have all these different brands and different supplements that they're taking on their shorts, because that's where their money was truly coming from. And now UFC even has gone as far to take that away, because all sponsorship to the UFC in total comes from Reebok. And you have to wear Reebok shorts, you have to wear Reebok gloves, you have to wear Reebok gear. And
Well, it's Venom now. They changed from Reebok to Venom.
they were still wearing Reebok on
this last fight. No, it was Venom.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, it was the first time they wore it. Maybe the second time. First pay-per-view they had Venom though.
Okay. But either way, all gear comes from one entity, and instead of you getting your bread separately or whatever, it's a trickle down. Everybody gets the same amount of money for sponsorships, which is nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. So they are cutting fighters off at the knees, and if you don't like it, then you don't have to fight in the UFC. So I guess I want to end it here, man.
And then if they try to go out, right? If you heard Dana White's last statement that no fighter under UFC contract will be doing anything as far as boxing promotions or anything on Thriller or any other boxing promotions. He has to release it. He has to be involved like he was with Conor McGregor so he can get his piece. It's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous.
So I guess here's my question to you. What would it take for John to be like how long are these guys' contract? Like, what would it take for John to be like, nah, okay, I'm going over to Bellator today?
I don't know why they don't, bro. I know they have a contract. Most of them have like 5-fight, 7-fight, 2-fight, 1-fight contracts. I don't know why they don't. I don't know why they don't be like, hey, stop Coker, like we're gonna come over to you. We
Right.
don't after this contract, I'm done. You know what I mean? I'm going to Bellator. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know why they don't. They wait to get cut and they look like they get thrown away. They look
Right.
like they get thrown away. Like, I guess if I don't know. I don't know. I can't sit here and say I would do anything different in that position. Maybe it's the fame, maybe it's the world recognition, maybe it's everybody watches UFC and they like to be seen. I don't know. But they wait till the contract's up, or if they're on a losing streak, UFC doesn't redo the contract. They get put in the trash, and then here comes Bellator and they get them, and then they're like, shit, I should have came over here a long time ago.
Like, cause here's the question: is like, what, like, why shouldn't Usman? Like, we're saying, like, well, there's nothing left for him here, right? So, wouldn't it be the perfect time for somebody like Usman to be like, well, there's nothing left for me here, and I'm not getting paid shit, so peace. I'm going to Bellator. I'm currently at my highest value. I am.
Mm.
I have not lost since winning this belt. I am at my highest value. I'm telling you deuces, and I'm going elsewhere unless you produce a much better contract.
Or I would switch in a heartbeat, bro. If all the good fighters and stuff went over there, you know what I mean? I'd be
Right.
like, well, guess what? Bye. Watching Bellator.
Exactly. Like I think the fighters themselves have to learn that no one, and I really mean no one, has a loyalty to the UFC brand. Like, it's not like, for instance, with the NFL, like if players were to go if players were to go to like the Canadian Football League, or players start going to the XFL, it would take time. It would take time for people to convert to, like, oh, I'm watching the XFL now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because there is a certain loyalty to the brand, to their particular team, like the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, there's, so that would take time to dismantle. But this is a one-on-one sport. Nobody has a loyalty to the UFC brand. They have a
Yeah.
loyalty to the fighter. So when the fighter goes, they're following the fighters where the
Right.
fighter is going. And I think the fighters themselves have to realize at some point that they have far more power in this situation than the UFC itself does.
Yeah.
Like, they have to organize.
It's possible, bro. Like, it is possible with business. Um, that the UFC spends a lot of its money on, how can I say this? Exclusive contracts. Like, so to give you an example, like here in Vegas, we got helicopter companies, right? And every now and then we have NASCAR, you got EDC. Well, it's one company that has an exclusive contract with the racetrack where all that stuff is held at, and they can fly people out to these events. No other helicopter company can do it. It's all exclusive contract, some type of deal with Maverick. Maybe UFC has something like that with these arenas, man. Maybe they have it like, so let's say Allegiant Stadium, only we're going to be able to throw events here. Nobody else can. If Bellator wants to come through here and do an MMA event, they got to do it over at the T-Mobile Arena, or they got to do it at Sam Boyd Stadium or something like that. So it could limit, the amount of people that can come watch a live event. It could limit the amount of people that know about it. It can make the fighters not want to fight because it's not such a big, huge event. I don't know. I don't know. It could be things like that in the works that
But
cause fighters to stay, or I don't know.
even
Dana's true.
even if that was the case, then what's stopping fighters from having a work stoppage?
Right.
Like,
Well, he pays them just enough to live for the next fight. So I guess if they stop working, they don't fight and they don't make their bills. I guess that's why. I guess he keeps them in the slave mentality, man. Like, if I pay you $80 million, you ain't gonna do what I say. If I pay you $100,000, over the course of your fights, and give you a little taste of the good life, you want to keep supplying that life, you're gonna do what I say. You know what I mean? And then it's easy for him to say, "Hey, you're gonna take this." It's easy for him to look at Rose and be like, "Hey, you're gonna take this fight with Weili. You're going to do this rematch. You have no say." Now if she won like $2 million for that, she'd be like, "Yeah, all right, whatever, get bent. I'm out. I can retire right now today." I don't want to fight her. This is what I do. This is what I'm going to fight. And if you look at the boxers, this is why a lot of the boxers do what they do. This is why they take 2-3 years to fight. You know what I mean? Because of that. You know, they don't have to fight every day. They want to take time with their family. They want to travel. If the deal don't look right, hey, I don't want to fight that guy. Well, this is all that's on the table. Well, I'll sit back for another 2 years. You know what I mean? Chill until the right fight comes along that I want. Maybe he's trying to avoid that. Maybe he don't want that to happen because he did start out in the boxing promotion, and maybe he saw a lot of the things in boxing that he didn't like fighters being able to pick and choose and do what they want to do. Maybe he wants to be the ring master, the ring leader of the circus. I don't know. It doesn't make it right, but I can see how paying them as much as he pays them gives him full control over what they do, when they do it, how they do it, and where they do it.
Right. Understood. Yeah, man. And I couldn't say it better myself. So with that, I think this is a perfect time to call this episode to a close and leave it at just UFC for this time. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Tyrone, for being the excellent co-host you are. So
Thank you.
glad to have you as our fight correspondent. And as always, if you're looking to get a ITEST t-shirt or a hoodie, you could go to the Small World Etsy store. We will have the link in the bio, and also go to the Small World Etsy store for any other of their cool gear that they have available there. Um, so, with that being said, I'm going to say, like I always say, if you cool with us, we'll be cool with y'all. So please, 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 please be cool with us, so we can be cool with y'all. And the way you could do that is by like, and subscribing, man. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. Go to it. Link us up, man. And link us to your friends. Do all that crap. All right. And with that, I'm out. Peace. Tyrone, say bye to the people.
Peace.